everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the Random Tea Sessions podcast, sponsored by the Random Tea Room. I'm Koof. If you don't know me, I'm a musician. I play a bunch of instruments. I play trumpet, a little guitar, a bunch of brass instruments, keyboard, drums, blah blah blah. I like to play the accordion, although I'm not good, and I don't own one. But if someone has one and wants to let me borrow one, I would play it more. I went to school for music and music education at University of the Arts. From there, I joined a bunch of bands. I was playing with some during my time at UArts, but I guess most people in Philly know me from either The Extraordinaires, this rock band. I like to say that they're a narrative rock band. I'm actually going to do an interview with the lead singer and hopefully more members in the future, so I don't want to say too much about them, but want to be ahead of the curve. Look up The Extraordinaires, they're great. Also, I played with the West Philly Orchestra, a big 12 plus piece brass band, I guess Balkan influenced brass band, so Eastern Europe. And then we did a lot of our own arrangements, so we mixed a lot of jazz and funk and I guess Americanized music. An Americanized Balkan brass band. We've had a few residencies throughout the city, back in the day at the Tritone, then at Underground Arts, and at Frankie Bradley's, and we've done New Year's for the past 10, well, I've played with them since 2010. I guess let's get back on track. This is a podcast spin-off of the Random Tea Sessions, the video series that I started back in 2012 when I moved into... Alright, so the story is I moved into the Random Tea Room with Becky, the owner. She had an open room, and I needed to get out of a place that got bed bugs. It was a great house in South Philly. It just happened to have bugs in it. So I moved in there because I loved the environment and I loved smelling like tea and drinking a lot of tea. So Jesse Moore, who's a musician who I actually shot a video for, he was working at the tea room and we were sitting there. I used to sit at the bar and we were just watching music videos and listening to music. And we started watching the series from La Blogotech. There's this French series, this French video series. It's called The Takeaway Shows. And they just do pretty much live music videos for bands. One of the ones that really caught my eye was the one for Liana Lahavis, where she's just walking in the middle of this market in France playing guitar, and some people are looking at her and some people aren't, and it's kind of just a beautiful way to see stripped down versions of songs that I've already heard. And in that case I didn't hear the original, and I actually still love the video version more than the original, and that one stuck with me. So Jesse and I were watching that and we were like, hey, we can do that. We have the space available to us because the tea room was closed on Mondays, and we knew a bunch of musicians because we had just been in the scene, and I've been playing with, like I said, a bunch of other musicians, and Jesse's a talented musician in his own right, and we were like, yeah, let's do this. I thought that there were a lot of really good bands that didn't have enough video promotion, didn't have a big presence on the internet, and we both had cameras, and we were like, why not? And also, let's practice making videos, because we were both pretty novice at that, but it definitely made us better, and definitely got better at figuring out how to record these videos on literally no budget, and just booking it ourselves and shooting it ourselves and editing it ourselves, and yeah, there was a learning process, but I think it's pretty good now. Jesse, a few years ago, kind of took a break / left and was working on his music a lot, and that's eventually when I shot the video for him. And it's interesting, I hadn't heard his original version of that song, until recently. But I just know the version that he played at the Moth Building in Philly on 5th and Girard, on that really great piano. And a lot of times when editing these tea sessions, I kind of fall in love with the stripped down version, the version that I hear, because I hear it a lot, and like end up wanting to do covers, or like really having these melodies stuck in my head. A few that stick out just off of the top of my head are like Lauren Scott's Just Kind of Haunts My Dreams, Lizzie playing harp, The Extraordinaires, because I was in that band, but just hearing a different version of it from the outside gave me flashbacks of when I lived in that house that got bed bugs. That's where we used to rehearse. Herb Murray is just like a staple in my life. I love that song, Happiness Is You and Me. Herb is passed since then, but I'm glad I got to get that recording of him and get a recording of his song and kind of dedicate it to him. And now I just have this memory of him in the space and all of these other musicians and artists just in that space playing music, and the way that the sound reverberates against the wood. Yeah, it's nice and cozy in there is another word for saying it's pretty small, but it's definitely decorated, and it feels really warm, and I love getting to combine that space with different music that I like. But yeah, we used to shoot the random tea sessions on Mondays when the shop was closed, but the tea room is doing a lot better now, and they decided to open on Mondays, so we kind of lost our location to shut down and shoot a video. So the past few I've done either at a satellite location or at my house, because that's the only space. I'm already paying for the space, so why not use it? But then I had this idea of getting out and performing and getting other musicians involved in low or high stakes, depending on the musician, depending on how much they want to put into it. And that's what led me to this idea of a live music series there. So here's a little explanation of what this series is going to be. It's going to be a revolving, I think, bi-weekly revolving cast of me and another musician from Philadelphia. But so far I've talked to a handful or two of musicians about different ideas for what they would want this performance to be. Like I said, it's going to be bi-weekly at the tea room. The first one is going to be January 19th, Sunday, January 19th. And I think we're going to do every 2 weeks after that. But definitely subscribe to whatever this is coming out on, and you'll hear about it. But so far, but the ideas that I talked about different musicians about were doing a tribute to an artist. So like a set that's not just specifically covers, but doing a set of what the artist feels like. I know that's kind of an esoteric way to describe it, but yeah, the tea room kind of has an esoteric feeling to the music that's already there. Another idea that we talked about was doing instrumental covers of whatever the other artist, whoever I'm playing with. So like specifically Lizzie I really like a lot of her music and her melodies, and like I said, when I'm editing, I definitely fall in love with melodies and kind of just, they stick around in my head, and I have to get them out eventually. So having a musician come in and not have to worry about the lyrics or singing or anything, but just play the songs that they're used to, and I'll take the melody, improvise over top, and that's kind of a low stakes idea. Another one, pretty low stakes, but still involves a little rehearsal, doing classical duets. I talked to a clarinet player today who was like, I don't know about improvising, or like, I don't really feel comfortable improvising. I'm not really sure if this is for me. And I'm like, no, I like duets also. I have a bunch of duets that I've saved throughout school that I really like. And I've been writing a few, like, mellower duets, especially using this loop pedal, which is going to be a big part of these shows. I've been practicing duets and writing my own duets and seeing how they fit together. So that's idea number 3. It's definitely gonna happen one of these times. Also, there are a few people that I feel really comfortable just doing an improvised set of. Philadelphia is kind of full of improvisers, jazz musicians, and a few years ago I did video for the Philadelphia Impermanence Society, I think it was called, and they did improvised music, or improvised sound and dance together. There were people playing instruments, there were people that created their own instruments, and everything was improvised. They had workshops about how to work with people and how to work across mediums. So yeah, I have a bunch of those people on my list. And actually, I just recorded the first podcast, and we did our first rehearsal, and we actually created 2 new songs. I wasn't really expecting that to happen, but that's a thing that will happen when musicians get together, and creative people just kind of bounce off of each other. In the same podcast, I was talking about trying to workshop this artist's material. He's the composer, and he writes a lot of music, and it's just good as a musician to have somebody to bounce ideas off of and see them in a different way or add to them differently. Kind of get out of your box. And I feel like that's kind of what I'm doing too. The last idea was to have, I guess, teach different artists some of my music, some of the stuff that I've been writing with the loop pedal, just because, like I said earlier, I play a bunch of different instruments and I write music on different instruments because, like I said, it's good to get out of your box. So I have a lot of stuff written for guitar, but I never play guitar outside of my own room. I have a lot of stuff written for keyboard or piano, but I never really perform on stage with a piano. Oh man, so much uke music. It's kind of disgusting how much uke music I have, so if anybody wants to come play uke music, hit me up. So far, some of the people that I've talked to play, well, the first podcast has guitar and ukulele. I talked to Lizzie. I hope that's not a spoiler yet. She plays harp and guitar. Like I said, I talked to a clarinetist. I talked to this producer, DJ, and he was really interested in bringing in his drum machine, which I've always wanted, like a drum pad sampler. I've always wanted somebody to play it live, and play it live with other musicians, and I guess I'm just going to make it happen. Other instruments that I want, or people that I want to reach out to, definitely bass clarinet and cello, which are pretty much my 2 favorite instruments. Every once in a while, and a new one comes up, like the Quijada de Burro, which is the jawbone of a donkey. I wrote an article about that for WXPN. You can check that out. Upright bass and keys would be great to have in the tea room. Every time there's an upright bass in the tea room, you just feel it throughout the whole room. And when I lived upstairs, you could feel it upstairs. Just kind of this warm sound that fills up the whole place. So my idea grew from that, from having this performance to, okay, of course we're going to have a rehearsal since everybody's not going to be up for just a completely improvised set. I'm up for it, but not everybody feels good improvising on their instrument. So I figured we would have a rehearsal or 2, and all these rehearsals would have to involve a lot of talking, and that's when the podcast idea came in. Just record the whole thing, and also just like recap what is going on with the artist in their life, what their side hustles or day jobs are, what music they're listening to, what music influenced them, talk about pop culture. I promise I'll try and keep the Star Wars talk to a minimum, but I just brought it up, so keep it to a minimum. Moving on, mental health and wellness. I need to talk about my mental health in relation to Star Wars because never mind. And also we'll just talk about Philly and what it's like being an artist and, podcast things. I kind of came up with this project to support myself as an introvert, kind of take a step away from being in huge bands and start collaborating one-on-one and inspire collaboration with these other artists. And I'm really interested in showing the process of getting ready for a show or people's process when collaborating with another musician, teaching people songs or learning songs, just seeing the process from beginning to end, from start to finish, literally taking it from a bedroom to a stage or to a performance. I'm releasing this on YouTube since it's kind of the most accessible platform for now. It's going to be a podcast, so after I get a few of these under my belt, because I'm pretty new to just listening to podcasts, and I'm even newer to recording them, obviously. And the one I just recorded let me know that musicians can talk for a while. So I'm thinking maybe half of it goes on YouTube, and then when I figure out how to do the Patreon and podcast distribution thing, half of it will go up for subscribers. So look out for that Patreon link. And I know I talked about this a little bit before, but I already recorded the first episode with composer, musician Jay Purdy, my old bandmate from the Extraordinaires. We talked about his first album, Ribbons of War, and how it transformed from an album to a stage show to a musical, how he's transformed from an artist, band leader, to a composer, family man, and a lot more. So thanks for listening to this. Usually from here on out, you'll hear a podcast and a rehearsal, part of a rehearsal with the artist, and then there will be a show the next week at the tea room, midday around tea time, and hopefully a lot more random tea sessions. So thanks for listening to the first Random Tea Session podcast, and I guess I'll take you out with a song. Is that how you end podcasts? Alright, see you next time.